The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. If you can't hear, please let us know in chat, or if you can't see our presentation, let us know. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Hopefully everyone can hear and see. I'm John Mars, a new home-based trainer here on the team. And I have Joan Cooney with me from Pearson, one of our wonderful Schoolnet reps. And if you want to pull up the slide deck, the bit.ly is there as well, if you prefer to mouse through on your own. Joan, if you want to go ahead and...
Sure.
So a few new staff introductions. Dr. Rob Dietrich is joining our team at the end of March. He'll be the new home-based manager taking Roz's position. He's coming from Lee County Schools, where he was director of technology and accountability. So I think he'll bring some great experience onto the team, and we're excited to have him. And then we also have Chris Bennick joining as an educator on loan for the Central region. He's an experienced ITF, and again, I think will be a great addition to the team. Feel free to reach out to him with anything you need for professional development. And then me, I was Director of Technology and Communications at American Renaissance Charter School in Statesville. And I'm excited to kind of enhance what we have and help schools and districts implement everything. And then we also have Lindsay Sipe joining as the Digital Teaching and Learning Consultant for the Southwest region. She comes from Charlotte-Mecklenburg, I believe, yes, where she was a district level ITF, and she is awesome as well, so feel free to reach out to her. And then a few quick PowerSchool notes. We are on track to upgrade to PowerSchool 19.11.0.2 on the March maintenance weekend. That's the already scheduled maintenance weekend. Testing is going well so far, knock on wood, and there is a fix in this version for the issue with student records transfer. So feel free to check out the release notes and keep an eye out for additional details from us here soon. And then quick update for learning.com. There are some upcoming professional development opportunities for learning.com, which is a new addition with us this year for sort of online digital literacy education. And if you need anything for that, you can reach out to Tiffany Kinney with learning.com. And then Imagine Math piloting is going well in our 52 pilot sites across the state. Most schools that have tried Imagine Math as a supplemental support tend to see on average 2 years worth of math growth in their first year with it. So that is going well, and feel free to hit the link there for additional information on that. And then this is our schedule for home-based meetups this year. The April one's coming up. We'll be traveling from west to east the next time around. And the next slide has the locations as well. And these will, of course, be in home-based communications coming up soon. Thank you again for joining us virtually today. Weather threw us a curveball, so I'm glad you could still hop on. And then we also have the Connecting Communities of Education Stakeholders Conference coming up. Registration is open and early bird registration closes tomorrow. So if you want to get those early bird rates, be sure to sign up soon. We do now accept credit card payments. This is the first DPI conference that will be taking credit card payments, so that's a fun new thing. And feel free to check out the session details. We do have Canvas and PowerSchool post-conference sessions as well. And feel free to reach out if you would like any additional details on that. Go Open NC is now available for all teachers across the state. It has been added to NC Ed Cloud for everyone. It's an awesome platform to curate and collaborate and create openly licensed instructional resources, and they're all aligned to our standard course of study. There's also an awesome new Go Open NC toolkit that's available to help get it implemented in your districts and charters. And you can find that on the main homepage of Go Open NC. There's a little red toolkit link up at the top left. And then finally, please, at the end of the webinar, provide us feedback. Let us know what we did well, what we need to improve on, especially me. This is the first webinar I've led, so let me know. And then I believe with that, we are rolling over to Joan with some awesome Schoolnet updates. Unless anyone has any questions or anything at this point. I'll keep an eye on the chat and the questions box and kind of try to keep up with you guys if anything does come up.
So good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you today, although it's virtual. I'm pleased to be here. And just to reiterate what John indicated, if there's any questions during the course of the Schoolnet presentation, please feel free to put a comment in the chat. We can either open up, unmute you, and then answer your question. So with that, we're just gonna kind of have you enter some hot topics that are occurring within your districts, and then also kind of ask you to update some of the contact information as it relates to Schoolnet. We're gonna go over some product updates related to the 21.1 version, which was the last update that we did back in January, and then kind of give you a sneak peek on what's coming up in the back to school version. Then we'll just do some group collaboration, particularly around enhancement requests. So if you do have the slide deck from the bit link, this is a hot link for the hot topics, and this will take you into an area where you can put in some input as far as what you're dealing with. If you're having any issues, we'll be happy to address those. If you have any requests for more information, we'll be happy to address that as well. Additionally, there's another link here for the Schoolnet leads, and I think it's, if you open this, it's a very large spreadsheet. If you kind of scroll over to column V, you'll see the instructional improvement system columns, and we have the primary and secondary contact. If that has changed for your districts, please update that in the spreadsheet. Pam uses this to give you any communications as far as any hot fixes or announcements related to Schoolnet. Additionally, we have another link here for the home-based maintenance weekends. These are for Power School, and as much as we really do try in Schoolnet to coordinate with those weekends, but that's not always the case. Pam did indicate that there is some conversations to try to shorten those for the Power School timeframe rather than being down for the whole weekend. So more to come on that. The other thing too, Schoolnet webinars that Pam holds, there is descriptions and registration links. I would encourage you to take a look at that, and there's also a printable calendar for those. You will notice that there is CEU credits for those. So we're going to go over a few things that took place in our last release. Color coding as it relates to analysis spreadsheets. Being able to save your favorite items to an item bank, either newly created or to your own personal bank, and then just an item bank creation refresher. So this only applies to analysis spreadsheets, and I don't know how many of you use that. You obtain that by going through the custom report capability in your reporting module. This contains your beginning of grade, end of grade, and end of course type of test and standardized tests. These are typically imported into Schoolnet, and they are usually a year in arrears. What we have done is we've provided color coding in that analysis spreadsheet, and it is based on the level. So you can see here in this example sheet where we have the color coding across the different levels. I just want to note here, these are set at the state level, and they can't be changed on a local level. So we've had some districts who have kind of told us about how they're using item banks since we rolled this out. And there are folks who are actually creating their own item banks to kind of save their favorite items. So if they've created a test, maybe they've used items out of the item bank or one of the existing item banks and edited those and really want to save them, you have that capability from the test perspective. So let's say you've created a test, you go in and you hit the edit button under the actions, and you go into the item level view, you will notice there is an unlink button. If you press that unlink button, that will thereby allow you to save that within your own individual bank. And then once you get into that, after you've unlinked your individual items that you want to save later, you go down to the bottom of the test once you get into the ready to schedule stage. So if you're in private or public mode, you need to move to ready to schedule, and you probably noticed down at the very bottom of the test, you'll see the add all items to item bank. And once you press that button, or that link I should say, you'll have the save to a bank, and it will populate with all of the banks that you have edit rights to. And also note that you have your personal bank there, or you have the option to create a new bank. So if you were, let's say, a third grade math teacher and you wanted to save all your quizzes that you're given to your students, you could thereby go ahead and do that. And then you could create a new bank that I'm calling my third grade math quiz 1. Then once you hit, if you're going to create a new bank rather than save to your own personal bank, refresh, it's going to populate to this screen that we've had, since we've migrated to item banks to create a new bank. And you can enter the name of the bank. You can provide a description if you want to. If you don't, just type in a blank or a period and move on. And then you have the people that you can add to that bank with, whatever rights that you want. You can look at this case. It's myself and Pam have been added to this bank as managers. That gives us the capability to do anything with that bank, share it with whoever, and be able to change anything in that bank. You can also give, view and edit rights to someone else, or just view only rights. I do want to point out, you can see down here at the bottom on the create a bank, you'll see people and institutions. If teachers were going to do this, they're only going to be able to add people rather than institutions. If you have leadership roles, you'll be able to share with institutions. A school leader could share it with the whole school, or a district could share it with various schools. And then you would create the bank, and then it would become into your item bank listing. So Pam has done a webinar that she recorded, and there is a hot link there to connect to that webinar replay if you want to know more about this or share it with your districts. And we also have a Word document, save your favorite item instructions, so that you can see how to do that. So we have a new release coming out. This is just a maintenance release, and it should be in the first 2 weeks of March. We're probably going to have that specific date early part of next week. That's going to also allow you to see, go open and see instructional materials within Schoolnet. Just to give you a preview, if you've worked in instructional materials, you'll notice that we have the NC lore tabs. We have, and I'm sorry, this doesn't really show you North Carolina specific banks, unfortunately, but the first tab would be North Carolina materials. Those materials are what resides within Schoolnet for North Carolina. And then you're going to see a Go Open NC tab, and that will have the connection to the Go Open NC materials. I do want to point out, you'll have the same filters that you've got with the NC lore today, material types that you can click on and drill down on. You can still search by standards. You can search by keywords, subject, and grade, just like you always have, and it will populate for both the Schoolnet materials and the Go Open materials. I will tell you the Go Open North Carolina material types are slightly different than North Carolina, but we have done a crosswalk so that they're grouped into curricular unit, instructional unit, lesson plans, assessments, and resources that is the Schoolnet material types. The other thing I wanted to point out, and you may not have known this before, but you will have the capability to build an express test. So if you had a material that was in Go Open NC, they're all going to be aligned to a standard, and thereby we can do a quick search express test creation based on that aligned standard of that material. And you will see, as far as that action bar, the build express test is what you would click on to go and to perform that action. So I'm going to go over with you some sneak peek as it relates to the version that will be back to school version. We usually deploy that in most cases in the July timeframe. We're going to have some new reporting capabilities that are listed here, and I'm going to go into detail, as well as what we call Assessment 2.0. So these would be things related to assessment creation. So first up, and I think most of you will be excited and have asked for this before, you may recall we've got the comparison report. So you go into your reporting dashboard and it populates with various tasks that are contextualized for your view or your role. And then you can go ahead and select and then generate a comparison report. And that would, and as it stands today, that would be based on scores or performance comparisons. You'll notice here in this screenshot that when you go and you select multiple assessments, you've chosen your programs or subgroups that you want to search on or report on, I should say, screen, and it's going to generate a performance comparison just like you do today, and then it'll also have a standards comparison tab. You'll also notice that you can have the same filtering capabilities that you do today. And the other thing that you will notice that's different is the standard level. Thereby, you could go ahead and change this graphical depiction to the various levels of the standard. It's going to default to the highest domain of the standard, and then you could change that view to level 2, level 3, or all aligned. This will default if you have items in your test that have multiple standards aligned to them, this is going to default to the primary alignment of those items, meaning the first default primary alignment, standard alignment.
And Joan, we do have a question. Is it possible to do a comparison report over multiple years?
You are able to move to past years, yes. And I'm just trying to think how that flow went without having it in front of me. Let me see. Let's go here. I'm going to go ahead and open up our training site. I'm going to sign in as a teacher. So you see, I think we can do, let's just do poetry, and then let's just see, we've got current enrollment. I'm going to go to 2017-18. I'm going to do this one, and then I'm going to compare assessments. So you'll see that I have the different school years here. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it looks like it does. Thank you.
Okay. So then I also wanted to show you here, the other view as it relates to the standards comparison report is that table view that you'll see after that pictorial diagram view. And that's just on the lower part of the screen. You're going to be able to see, just like you did on a performance comparison, you know, all of your selected score types. But then on the left, you're going to be able to see your standards. They're going to default with these carets being contracted, but you have the capability of expanding those. The other capability that you're going to be able to see in the next version over the summer is the ability to print open response. So we may have people who want to print this in order to show parents. They might be doing some manual scoring and they want the capability to print the students' responses. So you're going to have the ability to export and then print PDFs of those student responses. The other addition, this relates to reporting. Most of you may already know that teachers really don't have access to published reports. So if you were a school level leader or a district level leader and you wanted to have a report, customized report that goes out to your whole school or to your whole district, you would have the capability of publishing that report. But today, the teachers don't really have a way to get that in a very straightforward way. So what we're trying to do is improve that user interface for teachers so that now, today, if they go to their reporting dashboard, all they see populated is their particular sections. You'll notice here that they'll be able to have their school also viewed on their reporting dashboard. And when they click on that, they will have the tab for published reports. So we have some item and search enhancements, and we have gone through several iterations and more improvements are coming. The first one is you may have that are passages, and in North Carolina we have quite a few paired passages within the Certica Bank, but it's really difficult to find those. So what we are doing on your item search screen, if you'll look at the far left depiction, at the bottom, it will only show items with multiple linked passages. Now, I mentioned paired passages, but it is possible for items to be linked to more than 2 passages, 3 or 4 passages. So if you wanted to see those, you could check that and it will populate only those items linked to multiple passages. The second addition that we're going to have is passage title search. And you may recall in the last version release, we improved the search criteria to either match all words or any words. We used to be just any words. So if we had a match for 2 out of 10 words, we would populate that. You do have the option for all words so that you've got an exact match. So let's say you knew the title of a passage, you could thereby put it in that, type that into there, press all words, and then it would go out and search for all of that passage title. If you just know the content of the passage, you can also enter that and do a search on that. The third enhancement that we've added to the item search is there was a big demand for people who wanted to do searches on tasks that were only 2 activities. And when you go into your filter by item type, you'll see all of your item types there, and we'll have the addition here where it's labeled 3, that you're going to do a task and that you only want to show composite items for 2 activities. And then lastly, we have a global item search bar. It'll now be able to search on item name. And in case you don't know where item name is actually shown, it's actually in your item properties. So if you happen to note that I want a Certica 1011, you would be able to search by that item name and it would populate for you on the search. The other enhancement that we're making, this relates to manual test creation. And when you go to generate your test, you're going to have 2 options: to use items from the item bank or author new items. So what this does is it will automatically, it's just going to save you 1 click path here. So if you want to go to the item bank, choose your items from the item bank, you would make that selection and it'll automatically take you to the item bank search screen. If you're going to author new items, meaning you want to create your own test, it's going to take you to the edit screen automatically, and then you can start creating your own items. And again, this is just an efficiency to save click paths. So we also have some test authoring enhancements, and some of these I think are going to be popular with you folks. The first one is co-authoring. So how many of you have had teachers that may be co-authoring and you get locked out while someone's editing? But if you are copying that test today, it still holds that edit mode until it times out, which is about an hour. So what we're doing now, if someone copies a test, it will end the edit session. So this is only on a copy function. If someone is truly working in that test, it's going to still stay in the edit mode until someone says they're done editing. I don't know how many of you have leadership role, but you're seeing this track accommodations in your test detail page. And what this does is allows you to see which students leverage their accommodations. But today, leadership can't see it. And the reason why that is the case is because you don't have sections assigned to you. Teachers are the only ones that are really able to see it. We are going to add an operation called View Track Accommodations, which in North Carolina we're going to add to the leadership role so that you are thereby able to see on a test-by-test basis which students used accommodations. And again, you know, it's only going to show the accommodations leveraged by the student, which has to be set up in their PNP, their personal needs profile. The other thing I'll mention too, if you happen to have staff roles in your respective districts, then you want them to have this capability. You do have the capability to add that operation to individuals through your role setup in PowerSchool. And again, it'll be View Track Accommodations. Again, I'll reiterate, leadership, this is going to come, we're going to build that into the leadership role going forward once it's released. We have an improvement here with the teacher dashboard, and many of you probably already experienced this. You've got multitudes of tests, and you go to the assessment dashboard and you're having to page through multiple pages. This is just to help with a little bit of efficiency and give folks the capability to choose their test category, what subject, and what grade levels, and be able to filter on those particular tests so that, I'm sorry, I messed up the screen there, so that they can filter and limit the screen exposure and more quickly find their test. And again, I just want to emphasize, this is test dashboard. We call it assessment dashboard here in North Carolina. The other improvement, I don't know how many of you have used hotspot items in your assessments. We had a problem with the contrast, so that when students were making a selection, there was very little variation on what they had actually selected. So what we have done is really try to improve and really bold the region. So for example, on this bird's beak, really make that a greater contrast so that students are very clear about what they're selecting. I don't know how many of you use Express Test, but we have noticed that a lot of folks are generating Express Test, and they're by default searching on all of their item banks when maybe they should just be searching on a particular item bank for their test. We have always had this, but it's always been kind of hidden down in this advanced filter plus sign expansion. We're going to try to just highlight and make it a little bit easier for folks to select their item bank that they really want to search on, and then also emphasize exclude all items used on previous assessments for the year, or exclude items with passages. So net here, just making this much more apparent in the Express Test creation.
And Joan, we've got another quick question came in about adding audio to an assessment. And I'm guessing the person asking is referring to like adding sort of a recording maybe of a teacher versus a read aloud.
Sure, and you do have that capability. Who is asking that?
Danya Bell.
Okay. D. Okay. D. And what we can do is we can send this out to all folks, but you do have that capability to put an audio thumbnail within your test questions. And we can send out the instructions on how to do that.
Perfect. Thank you, Joan.
Okay. Okay, I don't know how many of you have gone ahead and rescheduled a test that's already completed. This really isn't a good practice, particularly from last school year to this school year. You really botch up your reporting. So one thing that we're really trying to make apparent is make it apparent that this test has already been completed, and the best practice is to copy that test and reschedule it. So in this interface, we're making sure that they realize that this is already a test that's been completed and that they need to hit the copy test. And then there's also this, the schedule for this test is ended. If you'd like to schedule a new instance of this test, you must first copy the test and then schedule the new copy. Are you sure you want to edit the schedule for this completed test? So we're just going through a double assurance that you truly want to reschedule a completed test. So I think this will be welcomed here in North Carolina. This has been talked about for years, and we're changing the interface on scheduling tests. And I don't know how many of you have seen where folks will schedule the test but not assign it and go ahead and give out a passcode. What happens then, particularly the following school year, is you're not going to get reporting on that test when you do that. So we're trying to streamline that assignment process. So you're going to have 3 steps as depicted here on this screenshot. The usual, going ahead and scheduling the start and end dates and score dates for a particular test. Nothing has changed there. Number 2, we've got the assignment. So are we going to assign it to students? Are we going to recommend it to teachers? Are we going to recommend it to schools, depending upon your role? Then you're going to have a very dedicated button, one-time button, to apply to the default assignment, which might be all courses in all schools, or to the right of that, select the assignment. And then number 3 is your online delivery options, no changes from what you see today. And then the other great thing is it's going to go, if you're going to assign to particular courses, it's going to populate to this screen that you see now, where you click off which ones you want to schedule to and add selected. So we are eliminating that process of having to go ahead and pick your sections, courses, move them to the right of the screen, and then confirm twice. A lot of times we've had people say, I did select everything that I wanted, but they didn't confirm twice and it didn't stay. So hopefully this will be a very welcome change. I know I'm excited about this one.
Yes, it looks like we've got some excitement and the questions paying on that one.
Very good. The other thing that I think you guys are going to like too is that we're also adding some test restrictions that in North Carolina is really going to relate to students. We don't have the parent portal here, so it's not for Schoolnet here, so it won't be more as relevant for parents. But you're going to have your test restrictions just like you have now, but it'll be all under the 4 educators. But if you look at the 4 parents and students, this will allow you to hide the test completely, that late option, or restrict access to the item content and answer choices from date ranges or before the end date. Hide correct answers is another one that you can select. We have had a lot of feedback where teachers may want to re-review a test and don't want their students to be able to see the answers. So this is to address that capability. And again, this will be under the test restrictions section of your test detail page so that you can go in and edit those at any time as well. We do have another capability. This allows teachers to actually resume a restricted test from their Proctor dashboard. You will see each of the students here and be able to resume. I'm going to be honest with you, I need clarification on this. I want to verify that it's a restricted test that a teacher has created and not a restricted test that the district has done. So more to come on this, but it will actually be in operation. And what I'm expecting is if it does apply to restricted tests at the district level, we will not add this role to the teacher level. We'll leave that to the districts, whether they want to assign that or operation to a teacher or not. And we'll provide you with an update on that outcome. We just have not received the answer back from product on that clarification. So with that, I think I'm going to go back and see if anybody entered any hot topics. If you'll just give me one moment, we can go over those.
Yes, and feel free to stick those into the chat too if you didn't get a chance to get onto that Google Sheet.
And let's go here. Okay. Well, I don't see anything in here. Let's see. Well, let me go to this, and if you want to talk, feel free to talk. We can open it up, or you can put it into chat. One of the things that we were soliciting with some of our on-site meetings this week is enhancement requests. North Carolina is a huge source of improvements within the product. I didn't know if any of you had any suggestions on what you might like to improve. Maybe we could look at, exactly we could look at the reporting module. Are there things in here that you'd like to see improved upon? And also in the assessment module, are there things that you'd like to see improvement? Are you seeing any takers? John?
I'm not sure we've had any yet, and feel free to, unmute yourself as well. It looks like Danya is interested in standard details on reporting.
Okay. Can we take her off mute and see if she can explain? Let's see, Dee, how do I get you? I took you off mute. Oh, maybe I didn't. Dee, can you hear us? She might not be off mute on her side. I'm going to see if I can see her. Did she give any elaboration on the standards that she wanted to see in reporting?
Okay, she's looking for the name of the report. And then meanwhile, it looks like Wendy is saying her ELA teachers would love a report that gives a percentage for performance standards per student, or standards performance, rather.
Okay, a percentage of standards performance per student.
Yeah, I'm guessing sort of a summary of how they're performing on each standard.
Okay. All right, we can certainly put that in as an enhancement request. And if any of you come up with things, on the fly, feel free to either email me or submit a case through ServiceNow to Lisa, and we'll make sure that we get those routed into Pearson. All right, I want to make sure I understand. ELA, standards performance by student. And I'm just going to ask too, is what about standards mastery is not helpful in that regard? Is that you want percentage by proficiency? Is that what you're looking at, more of an overall versus this view?
And I just unmuted everyone. I'm sorry, guys.
Okay.
So feel free to unmute and jump in here. Well, I thought it did. Oh, there we go. We've got Wendy.
I think I got it. Good morning.
Okay. She doesn't have a microphone, but yes, an overall percentage per standard for the year. So for example,
Okay.
is Sally is 50% proficient in, RL1 or whatever it may be.
And then generate it by section or class. Yeah, section, class. Standards per year. Okay.
Yeah, by class, she says.
By class. Okay. All right. We'll certainly put that in.
And we've got another from Kendra about doing test corrections on Schoolnet. They'd like to give an assessment and then allow students to go back in afterward, make their corrections, and have the score update automatically.
Yeah, we've heard this frequently, and we do have that enhancement request in. I'm sorry, did she elaborate on the scoring? Like take scoring, the highest, lowest, teacher select?
I'm guessing probably most recent, maybe.
Okay. That's the
Yeah,
one thing
most
that we've
recent.
got some debate going on about is, how, if there's a score on this, what score are you gonna use? And one workaround, I think, particularly when we get back to the back to school version, that might be worth considering in the meantime, because it definitely won't be in the back to school version, is to use those student restrictions and then hide that content and then make a copy of a test or make a copy of that test and thereby re-administer that test. Or you can open it up for a period so that students can see what they did wrong and what they need to work on, and then re-administer the test by copy. Just trying to be creative about a workaround on that.
Perfect. And it looks like Dee got back to us. So standards by school, detailed standards, was the report she was asking on.
Okay, and so the benchmark, is this just on benchmarks? I'm trying to think about benchmark performance by standard and how that's not meeting your expectation. And Dee, you are more than welcome to email me with the specifics, or we can have a call.
Okay, I think she's going to email you with specific.
Great. And we'll be happy to share that with the group too. Any other questions?
Don't see any rolling in yet. So we can hang out a little bit longer and see if anything comes up across anyone's mind. And again, please feel to reach out to me or Pam or Joan. We're happy to help. I was very impressed to see yesterday about all the enhancements North Carolina has requested over the years that have actually come to pass. It looks like we've got one from Mary about if there are plans to add assessment items for health and PE or world languages.
I'm going to have to defer to Pam on that. So health and PE, and what was the other one? World
Language.
World language.
And yeah, I'm brand new at DPI, so I'm not sure on that, but I will certainly run that past Pam and see what our answer is. And hopefully there will be some items for that coming into Go Open and See as well, I would think. So we'll definitely take that back and see. right. Well, I guess if there are no further questions or thoughts or suggestions, we can go ahead and wrap up early. But again, feel free to reach out anytime and let us know how we can support you with Schoolnet or any other of the home-based products. And thank you all again for joining us. Joan, did you have any?
No, just a reminder on the evaluation. I think that's the last screen.
Ooh, yes.
Just give me 1 second and I'll point that out. Just the feedback survey. If you got the bit link, there's a link there for just a feedback survey on what you would like to see and how we can improve.
Yes, thank you. I'll drop that link into the chat as well, just in case you didn't get onto the bit.ly. But yes, please feedback. Let us know what we can do or what we did great. What we
Before
need to
you
improve.
leave, can you hear me?
Yes,
I can.
yes, ma'am.
This is Karen Banks with Yancey County Schools, and I'm not sure who I need to ask this question. We opened a new school, Blue Ridge Elementary, this school year, and a few of our students show up attached to Blue Ridge Elementary, but the others are still attached to their previous schools, and teachers cannot assign tests to those students. So who do I need to talk to get that fixed?
If you could submit a case, do you have ServiceNow access and submit a case? I'm pretty sure what's going on is there's probably the enrollment at the older school is still showing, as well as the enrollment at this new Blue Ridge Elementary. And we need to get that older enrollment taken care of in Power
Okay.
School.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you want to submit a case into the help desk, they can help validate that and then help explain how to get that fixed.
Thank you. I will do that.
Okay, very good.
All right. Anything else for good of the cause?
Thanks everyone for attending. I appreciate it.
Yes, definitely. Thank you all. Stay warm, stay safe. Hopefully you're not snowed in too bad. And hopefully we will see you in April in person at the next round of meetups.